The grand concert hall of Sterling Arts Centre gleamed under the warm stage lights as 36-year-old Marcus Williams pushed his cleaning cart down the side aisle. His olive-green maintenance uniform was clean and pressed, worn with the quiet dignity of a man who took pride in honest work, no matter how others might view it. Marcus had been working as the head custodian at Sterling Arts Centre for 2 years now. The elegant venue hosted symphonies, operas, and classical concerts that drew audiences from across the country. Each night after the crowds left and the performers packed up, Marcus would carefully clean every surface, ensuring the hall remained pristine for the next day's rehearsals. What none of his colleagues knew was that Marcus had once been a different man entirely. Before his wife Elena died in a car accident 3 years ago, he had been a music teacher at Roosevelt Elementary School. He had spent his days nurturing young talents, teaching children to find their voices through song and rhythm. But when Elena passed, leaving him alone with 8-year-old Sophia, everything changed. The school district's salary and benefits were not enough to cover the mounting medical bills from Elena's final months, and the irregular hours of evening concerts and weekend recitals made childcare nearly impossible. So Marcus had made the hardest decision of his life. He put away his sheet music, locked his piano at home, and took a job that offered steady pay and predictable hours when Sophia needed him most. That Friday evening, Sterling Arts Centre was hosting its annual gala fundraiser. The city's wealthiest patrons filled the red velvet seats, dressed in elegant gowns and tailored tuxedos. At the center of the stage sat a magnificent Steinway grand piano, its polished black surface reflecting the crystal chandeliers overhead. Marcus worked quietly around the edges of the hall, emptying wastebaskets and wiping down surfaces while the pre-concert reception continued in the lobby. He had learned to make himself invisible during these events, moving efficiently through his duties without disturbing the elegant atmosphere. The evening's featured performer was supposed to be renowned pianist Jonathan Clark, a temperamental virtuoso known for both his brilliant technique and his unpredictable behavior. But 20 minutes before the scheduled performance, Clark's manager approached the stage with obvious distress. "Ladies and gentlemen," announced Richard Sterling, the 52-year-old CEO who had built the Arts Centre as his legacy project, "I am afraid we have encountered an unexpected situation. Mr. Clark has taken ill and will not be able to perform this evening." A murmur of disappointment rippled through the well-dressed audience. These patrons had paid substantial sums for their tickets, expecting an evening of world-class music. Sterling, always quick-thinking in business, decided to make light of the situation. He spotted Marcus near the stage, polishing a brass railing with careful attention to detail. "Perhaps," Sterling said with a chuckle that carried clearly through the hall's excellent acoustics, "our dedicated custodian would like to entertain us this evening. After all, he spends more time with our piano than anyone else." The audience laughed politely at what they assumed was harmless humor. Several people applauded mockingly, treating the suggestion as an amusing way to acknowledge the working-class man who maintained their cultural sanctuary. Marcus felt every eye in the hall turn toward him. His first instinct was to smile politely and retreat to his cleaning duties. But something in the laughter stopped him. It was not cruel, exactly, but it carried the assumption that someone like him could not possibly have anything meaningful to offer their sophisticated gathering. Marcus thought of Sophia, who was spending the evening with their neighbor Mrs. Patterson. He thought of the piano at home that had sat silent for 2 years, gathering dust while he worked nights to provide for his daughter. Most of all, he thought of Elena, who had always encouraged him to share his gift with the world. "Actually," Marcus said quietly, his voice carrying clearly in the acoustically perfect hall, "I would be honored to play something for you." The laughter died away as the audience realized he was serious. Sterling looked genuinely surprised, but his businessman's instincts told him to let the moment play out. At worst, it would be a brief embarrassment quickly forgotten. At best, it might provide an amusing story for future galas. Marcus set down his cleaning cloth and walked slowly toward the magnificent piano. His work boots echoed softly on the polished wood floor as he approached the instrument he had not touched in over 2 years. He sat down on the bench and adjusted its height with the practiced movements of someone who had spent countless hours at similar instruments. The audience watched in curious silence as Marcus placed his hands on the keys, his calloused fingers finding their positions with muscle memory that had not faded despite the long absence. For a moment, Marcus simply sat in silence, feeling the weight of the moment and the memory of all the music he had locked away. Then he began to play. The piece he chose was Chopin's Nocturne in E-flat major, a composition that spoke of longing, beauty, and the bittersweet nature of memory. But Marcus did not play it as a technical exercise or a display of skill. He played it as a conversation with his lost wife, as a lullaby for his sleeping daughter, as a prayer for all the dreams that had been set aside but never forgotten. The first notes flowed through the hall with a tenderness that caught the audience completely off guard. This was not the competent playing of an amateur, but the deeply felt expression of a true musician who understood that technique without emotion was merely noise. As Marcus continued, his playing revealed layers of meaning that most performers never reached. Each phrase carried the weight of lived experience, the pain of loss, the strength found in sacrifice, and the enduring power of love. The music spoke of a man who had given up his dreams not in defeat, but in service to something greater than himself. The hall fell into complete silence except for the piano's voice. Even the servers in the lobby stopped their activities to listen. In the front row, Richard Sterling found tears streaming down his face, moved by a beauty he had not expected to encounter in his own venue. As Marcus played, memories flooded back. He remembered teaching 10-year-old Sarah Martinez to play this same piece, watching her small fingers find the melody for the first time. He remembered Elena sitting beside him on their old upright piano, humming along as he practiced. He remembered Sophia clapping her hands in delight when he played lullabies to help her sleep after her mother died. The music became a bridge between his past and present, a reminder that the artist he had been was not gone, merely sleeping. Each note was a reclamation of the part of himself he had thought was lost forever. When the final, delicate notes faded into silence, the hall remained quiet for a long moment. Then, slowly, someone began to applaud. Others joined, and soon the entire audience was on their feet, giving Marcus an ovation that went far beyond polite appreciation. But Marcus barely heard the applause. He sat at the piano bench, his hands still resting on the keys, feeling as if he had just awakened from a long, dreamless sleep. Richard Sterling approached the stage, his face showing genuine emotion rather than his usual business composure. "Sir," he said, his voice carrying clearly through the hall, "what is your name?" "Marcus Williams," Marcus replied, standing slowly from the bench. "Mr. Williams, that was extraordinary. Where did you study music?" "Juilliard," Marcus said simply. "But that was a long time ago." Sterling felt the weight of his earlier joke, realizing how completely he had misjudged the man he had meant to use for light entertainment. "Mr. Williams, would you be willing to speak with me privately after this evening's event?" Marcus nodded, still feeling the emotional impact of returning to music after so long away. The rest of the evening passed in a blur. Several more performers took the stage, but the audience's attention kept returning to the memory of the janitor whose music had touched something deep in their souls. After the last guest had departed and the hall was empty except for the cleaning crew, Sterling found Marcus in his small office, changing out of his uniform. "Mr. Williams," Sterling began, "I owe you an apology. My joke this evening was thoughtless and presumptuous." "No apology necessary, sir," Marcus replied with dignity. "You could not have known." "But I should have known better than to assume anything about someone based on their job. What I heard tonight was not just beautiful music, but the voice of someone who understands what art is truly for." Sterling paused, clearly struggling with how to continue. "I have to ask, what brings someone with your talent to work as a custodian?" Marcus told him about Elena, about Sophia, about the choice between pursuing his musical dreams and providing stability for his daughter. He spoke without bitterness, explaining his decision as simply a matter of loving his child more than his career. "Mr. Williams," Sterling said when Marcus finished, "I have a proposition for you. Sterling Arts Center has been seeking a new director of community education, someone to develop programs that bring music to underserved populations, especially children. The position would allow you to teach, to perform, and to share your gift while providing excellent benefits and a schedule that accommodates your responsibilities as a father." Marcus stared at him in disbelief. "Sir, why would you offer this to me?" "Because tonight, you reminded everyone in that hall why we built this place. Music is not about perfect technique or prestigious backgrounds. It is about the human heart speaking to other human hearts. That is exactly what our community programs should be." 6 months later, Marcus stood on the same stage where he had rediscovered his musical voice, but this time he was not alone. 30 children from a local elementary school sat at